the Lakers obviously have about $100 million in cap space, give or take. Austin, even though he's agreed to a $40 million contract, he only hits the Lakers books right now at $21 million.
Okay.
So whether Austin signed for $25 million or $40 million, he only hits the Lakers books right now for 21. So that is really good news. This is not surprising. The Lakers knew this for ahead of time. And it's one of the reasons why Austin wanted to drive the hard bargain, because it wasn't like Austin taking less would equal the Lakers being able to spend more. And the reason this is complicated is if LeBron were to sign for $40 million, he would count for $40 million. And you may be like, well, how, in what God's name could that possibly make sense? I'm sorry, that's just the way that it is. You know, I could spend an hour trying to explain it to you, but you know, whatever LeBron's number that he signs at is what he will count against the Lakers cap. And it goes to the baseline reason, guys, is because it has to do with what they made last year. Austin made, you know, less than 15 or whatever it was last year. LeBron made 50 last year, and so that's basically the reason why. So the Lakers still have the same cap flexibility they had yesterday. It's the same set of circumstances. The difference is that now going forward, you have to worry about the aprons, and you have, you know, Luka and Austin, you know, on the books for around $100 million a year. You know, for example, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are on the books for Boston for about $110 million a year. And that's a championship duo. And just so you understand, the Celtics are like, yeah, I don't know if that's the best allocation of resources, and are looking at breaking it up. So that's what I believe that was Marcus Morris saying that. That's what he's kind of referring to, is, you know, you're going to have $100 million invested in two players that are somewhat similar. And so that's why it goes to what you already knew, guys. You already know that the Lakers now have to really try to invest a big chunk of the rest of their cap into a guy who can help them defensively, to protect them defensively. And that's why, you know, getting a defensive first center is so important. I mean, they can win a championship, I really do believe, with Luka and Austin Reaves making $100 million a year. Those guys have a lot going for them. You know, they're going to win a ton of games with their ability to score, their ability to share the ball and play off the ball. It's keeping Austin. And by the way, if Austin Reaves had signed the same contract with Detroit and paired alongside Cade Cunningham, we'd be raving about it today.
Yeah.
So this is
100%.
not a commentary. Yeah. But for that to work, you need to have Jalen Duren back there. And the Lakers don't have Jalen Duren back there. And so that's where the challenge for Rob Pelinka in the front office is now.
Yeah, and Brian, right, to your point, and we talked about this because Bobby had tweeted it, that this year, no effect. It could affect them in future years depending on what the cap looks like. But Cappy asked me, like, you know, do I like the deal in the sense of, you know, the numbers? And I said it could only potentially affect them next offseason. You would know better than I would, and maybe, you know, you don't even know this situation just yet. But I did see Adam Silver say that the expectation is the expansion teams could come online in another 2 years.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, the cap will expand a little further, right? So these deals that maybe look a little bloated now could potentially look less bloated in a few years. Is that right?
How deep into the pool do we want to get here? You're asking a basic question. How deep do we want to go?
Can you apologize to Sedano, though,
do we want fifth grade? Do we want senior of high school? Do we want graduation?
Ask Cappy. Cappy, what do you want?
Listen, I think I'm going to surprise you here because I think everybody thinks I'm going to say, give me the fifth grade version. I want the PhD version with no apologies in advance.
Okay.
So if you remember, 10 years ago, the NBA signed a new TV deal, and all the salary cap went soaring super high all in 1 year. And that was how the Warriors, despite having Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Steph Curry, Andre Iguodala, were able to sign Kevin Durant. All right. And so and then there was a whole bunch of money, and then there was all these bloated contracts. And so the league didn't want to do that again. So instead of having a cap spike with the new TV deal, they put in what is called smoothing. So instead of seeing the salary cap, if you think about it on a line graph, instead of seeing the salary cap go shooting way up in one year, it would be more of a smooth pathway upward. And so they said, we're going to raise the salary cap. Instead of raising it 30% in one year, we're going to raise it 10% for 3 years in a row. 10%, 10%, 10%. Okay? And so teams are able to more budget the idea that the cap is going to go up 10%, which is a lot of money. The cap right now is about 165 million. 10% a year, that's 16 million. Then it's 17 million. It's over 3 years, it's like
50
approaching 50 million, right? Mm-hmm. So you say, well, that sounds great because Austin's going to make 50 million. Okay, but here's what's happened. Local TV money has collapsed. All of these local regional sports networks have collapsed. And even the ones that haven't collapsed, they've had to redo their deals to pay their teams less money. Even in New York, the New York Knicks, which are owned by the same company that owns their regional sports network, MSG, they had to take a $60 million a year pay cut on their local TV deal. So instead of the cap going up 10%, like they were all planning, the cap hasn't gone up that much because the local as the new national TV deal comes in really high, the local revenue came in lower. And guys, the cap not going to go up 10% like they thought. It's only going to go up 7%. And next year, there may the one thing that's on the horizon, and I actually think I've told you guys this, I think one of the reasons why the Bus family sold, Spectrum hasn't been touched by this yet, but they are not immune. And there's a reality that Spectrum could start having issues and maybe not be able to pay the Lakers the same amount that they did. If it can happen to the Knicks, it can happen to the Lakers. So that guarantee 30% over the next 3 years already is now behind schedule. And so that is affecting team spending this year. Just in general, I think you're going to see tighter spending on teams. Now, look, the Lakers have $100 million in cap space. They need to balance out their team. But to get to the point where Austin's contract will not be as big of a deal in 3 years, yeah, it will be a less percentage of the cap than it is today because the cap will go up, but not as robustly as was projected, when this whole process started.
Even if two new teams come online.
Yes, because that money. Okay, you ready for PhD level?
Will that money will also get smoothed in, is what you're saying?
No. Oh. It won't affect it at all. Here's why.
Okay.
The salary cap, all the money.
Does this make the Lakers closer to a championship caliber team?
When you're asking that question, no, it doesn't. It's the same roster they had last year. Re-signing your own player is great. It doesn't improve the team. This is the real bedrock issue that the Lakers have with improving this summer. You can't crow about your salary cap space when the way that you got that space was taking away core players. Like Rui Hachimura has been one of the best, forget about even big man three-point shooters. He's been one of the best three-point shooters in the league over the last 3 years. 3 years in a row, over 40%. Floor stretching, combination forward. That is a valuable piece. You may have issues with him, but let's say Rui Hachimura is, and so he's paid $17 million. I want to spend that $17 million elsewhere. Got it. That's not even a bad idea. You may be able to upgrade from Rui. But you realize when Rui walks away, the guy who just made, 200, I probably made 123 pointers last year and shot them at 40%, he's gone. Like, that's not there anymore. You're not adding, like LeBron. Oh, I don't want to pay LeBron $50 million. Okay, cool. Goodbye. We need to move on from LeBron. All right, get him out of here. He averaged like 22, 7, and 6 at 50% shooting. That's now going to be gone. So when you spend that $50 million, whoever you're going to spend it on, you don't have that $20 million or that 20 points. You got to replace that 20 points and then add on top of it. So that's the challenge with being a cap space team. Now, what an organization is supposed to do, the way this is supposed to work, is younger players who are cheaper, who ideally were drafted, move up. This is what the Thunder are doing, right? The Thunder are going to trade away guys who make more money, and they've got these draft picks that are ready to move up and step into these roles. A.J. Mitchell, Jared McCain, who functions like a draft pick. He's on his rookie scale contract. Other guys, Cason Wallace. maybe these two guys that they drafted last night. And these guys move up, and so you replace, a guy like Rui Hachimura, who was making $17 million, with a guy that you drafted 2 years ago who may be making $5 million. And that's how your team is supposed to replenish itself. The problem is the Lakers haven't been able to do that.